hello! How is everyone? I am realizing I need more coffees. I'm going to take you with me. Hey friends, what's up? Hello, how's everyone's day or morning going? I thought I haven't been live in a little while, so I thought I'd come on here and we could do a little bit of a past life Akashic Records chat or whatever you guys want to talk about, really. The full moon in Leo's coming up, so that'll be a fun time for anyone with Leo in their chart, I think. Hello, beautiful, right back. How's your day going? How is everything? I started the artwork for my tarot card deck yesterday, so that was a lot of fun creatively. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how long it'll take me to make 78 cards, but I might start putting them on t-shirts as I go. So yeah. Yeah. I've had some interesting realizations with the Akashic Hall of Records lately too, so it's been fun. Enjoying some coffee too. Amazing. I have my princess mug today. I've had this since I was a kid. Felt like a princess mug day. I need to figure out something to do with my hair. Bear with me 1 minute, friends. I accidentally slept on my furry fluffy pillow last night and it has made my hair a matted mess, so I'm gonna do this. Nothing like a high bun. There we go. Good morning! Zana, what's up? How is your day going? Oh, that's much better. Yeah. Anyone have any spiritual questions? Anything about past lives or ghosts or I don't know, anything? Good morning. Hello. I've been consulting my spirit guides about when to release my past life healer course, and it just doesn't feel like the right time right now, but I think maybe by February 14th I might try and get something out along those lines. Yeah. The Akashic Hall of Records has been really great lately. I mean, they're always great, but the Akashic Hall of Records itself has a consciousness that I've befriended over the years, which is very fun. Ghosts that are trying to reach out to you in open communication. Yeah, so that could mean that you might have natural mediumship abilities. It could also mean potentially part of your life purpose. Becky Beck, hello. Life purpose could be partially crossing souls over. It could also just mean that you might not be having strong spiritual boundaries and there might be more of a door open to having things talk to you. I know some people really love the paranormal, like what I would call the middle world. So like the spiritual overlay, where we live, is like where the ghost lives. So it's like a spiritual overlay of our third dimensional world. And that's where duality exists. So I know some people are like, hell no, all I want is to talk to my spirit guides and that is it. Or like my angels and my spirit guides. And some people feel really called to work with the souls of the dead and help them. So, they're not scary. I mean, you want to be using discernment depending on any kind of spiritual channel that you open or anyone you talk to. But a ghost is just a human who like didn't find their way when they died and probably has some unfinished business. That being said, they have been known to sometimes attach to people, so you want to have strong spiritual boundaries. Ah, so many paintings of crossing over in the realms. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. Mostly family and friends, yeah. Oh, you can see past lives. I mean, the biggest barrier with any spiritual gift or any spiritual talent is really like believing in what you see and using your discernment, right? So like sometimes things might try and trick you, but overall, like you kind of like most people start to get like a language that works with them with the universe. But most of the time we think that we're not good enough to know certain things. Jules, hello. So like we block ourselves, or like in my intuition boot camp, like the first thing we do is we go over healing techniques like EFT tapping or meditations or like journaling exercises where we become aware of the blocks that we have to our intuition, because everybody's intuitive. It's just most of us learn growing up that it's not okay to be woo-woo or whatever, or there's sometimes past life trauma from like the witch wound and things like that, or persecution in your ancestral line. So I would say the biggest thing is just working on the blocks and maybe doing some research on how the spirit world is structured and kind of where you can access the Akashic Hall of Records from and those sorts of things if you want to start working with it more. Evening in Europe. Oh, nice. That's awesome. It's a late morning where I am. So, yeah, I'm having a lazy start to the day. My spirit guides have said I've been too mentally focused lately, so I need to stop mentally thinking about everything so much, like business-wise and like creation-wise, and start doing other things. So I thought I would have a nice, relaxed morning. No pressure on myself, so yeah. Good morning. Hello. But yeah, that's really cool. You can see past lives. It's not always fun. It's sometimes like a blessing and a curse because, you know, if they're traumatic past lives and you're just living your life remembering them, it's not very fun. Oh, good. I'm so glad that you got some info. I have more detailed stuff on YouTube as well. So if you don't follow me on there, I'm doing a whole like Akashic Records series on there where they're like 10 or 15 minute videos. And I can kind of answer questions a little bit better there. So if you want like even deeper info, that's probably a good place to go to. So can we learn a skill when in the Akashic Records? Yeah, so the Akashic Records is the database for the universe. Like, yeah, I haven't done this yet, but there's like a Atlantean, like from ancient Atlantis water healing technique that I'd really like to learn. So my plan this year is to start like bending realities and maybe trying to like bilocate or doing this water healing technique and learning more about coding. I do coding a lot with my spirit guides, but like it would be nice to go to the Akashic Hall and like learn a little bit more in detail. The one thing I will say with that is that the Akashic Records does have kind of a filtration system. So like if you're going there with like a good heart, they'll probably show you anything. But they do have boundaries. So like if you were to dig into someone else's past life that like you didn't have permission to look into, they might not show you anything. They might like draw a curtain over things, or they might kind of put boundaries up. So, oh cool, yeah, other YouTubes about past lives. Yeah, so I don't have that many videos up yet. I think I only have like 45 videos up on my YouTube, but it's something I'm growing this year. Yeah, coding is a little bit like programming. So like the first time I came across it, like Archangel Michael and one of my spirit guides showed it to me, by like staring at me when I was journeying and then going like this, and I could see into their eye as they got closer, and I saw into the reality of all these like numbers and symbols and letters rushing towards their being. And each person has a different color coding. So it's not just like numbers and symbols, but there's also like light and color involved in the coding. But essentially, like any physical reality or any spiritual reality is created through complicated programming, essentially, kind of like a video game would be. And it's a way for like there to be structure in the universe, because although Source is infinitely creative, it's kind of like if you create a bunch of projects and you don't keep track of things, it kind of gets like messy kind of a thing. So I think it's a system for them to like keep reality the same enough that, you know, like it's not like The Good Place, you know, where like the shrimp are flying through the air and you're like, what happened? It's like, you know, a set of rules and structures to like keep people in their true form or their most preferred form. So yeah, these numbers and codes, I saw it like rushing towards someone and creating their physical reality. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I kind of just thought it was like spirit guides only for some reason when I first saw it. And then later on, I had like a full on like spiritual awakening epiphany. I was actually like in the shower when it all hit me. I was showering and washing my hair and I saw my own coding and I was like, holy shit. And so over the last few months, sometimes if there's something off in someone's coding, which is like affecting their like, I don't know, abundance mindset or a physical pain within them, it's something that I'll do when I'm usually in the Akashic Records, but sometimes just in the spirit world where I don't necessarily like fully comprehend consciously, but my spirit guides tend to like hop into my body and like help me like move everything around and recode everything properly. So I don't actually know what a Grabovoi number is. I should look into that. Yeah. I do Akashic Records readings for others. So if you go to my website, lionheartleo.com, it's all listed at the top, or you can go to the services page. But I try to do monthly giveaways on my Instagram. So I just did one for January, but I'll do one in February as well for a free reading. Just because like I have to set my price point at a certain point with how much work I have to put into it behind the scenes and stuff. So I need to make sure I'm like getting a living wage. But yeah, I like to give back. So I know it's not always accessible for everyone to get readings all the time. So yeah, I try and give back by doing Instagram giveaways like once a month. So yeah, feel free to check out my website. I just kind of redid a little bit of the pictures and stuff to something a little bit more sparkly that I think matched my personality a little bit better. So yeah, but I do them all through Zoom or Google Hangouts. Zoom is better because I can record it for you and then you can get a download link. And it tends to be quite detailed. Like, I don't tend to have repeating clients in terms of like a short period of time. It's usually like 8 months between bookings a lot of the time. Just because like we do so much work in one session that they're kind of like, whoa. There is a bit of an integration period too. So I focus more on healing your past lives than just giving you information. So you still get good information. It's just I'm like, why bring up trauma if we're not gonna try and fix it, you know? Yeah, and sometimes, sorry, the sun is like blinding me. I'll do Akashic Records readings sometimes at the same time, so it really depends on what the Akashic Call wants. But lately I've been getting shown like chunks of people's life contracts if like they need a direction to go or something like that. So nothing's set in stone. You can change your life contracts, but it's kind of like the life plan that you set out before you incarnated here that you forget. Oh, sorry, friends. This sun is just like, it's beautiful, but it's in my eyes. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also happy to answer questions on here too. So, Nina, hello. How are you? Yeah. So, I'm trained in other things too. So like you'll see my heart healing package has like a bunch of potential options. But I find like Akashic Records work is like my calling, you know? So, oh, that's so sweet. I'm not wearing any makeup at all. I think I accidentally put a filter on this though, and I like have no idea how to take it off. So it's probably the filter doing more than anything. Yeah, I've been feeling a little bit stuck in a rut too. And something that the Akashic Records did tell me is that um, like January is probably going to feel like that for most people in 2021. It's kind of like a releasing of 2020, and like people are going to probably be hitting up against their kind of like ego blocks, their like three-dimensional blocks in 2021. And so like I was told not to like make too many courses, to work too hard. I was told to take certain days off this month and like go really easy on myself. So if you're feeling stuck too, it could just be a time of like going inwards, loving on yourself. And then as the year goes on, you might also just like energetically start to pick up a little bit more. Oh, thanks, Becky. Yeah, if I knew how to turn it off, I probably would. And yeah, so life contract can change. The thing is, all pieces of you have to be in alignment and agreement for your life contract to fully change. So life contracts tend to only be the things that are like really important to us. So like maybe the person or like potential people we marry, we sometimes have like 5 or 6 options, like clauses, like, oh, if I move to Europe, then I'll marry this person. But oh, if I stay in this place, then I'll marry this person, kind of a thing, or do this job. Or so it only tends to be the really big, important karmic stuff or dharmic stuff that gets put in there. And then every other decision's kind of like day-to-day life, right? Like, am I going to go buy a coffee this morning, or am I going to make a coffee this morning? Am I going to do yoga? Am I going to go for a walk? Those types of things tend to not be in your life contract unless they're pushing you towards like something that should be in your life contract. If you want to change it, like there's a version of your consciousness essentially that's like tethered through 8 dimensions. So it's anchored in the Akashic Records in the 8th dimension, and it goes all the way down to the 3rd dimension. All of those pieces, so like your higher self that exists in the 8th dimension and down, and could be even higher, like it could even be past the 8th dimension, have to kind of be in alignment. So a lot of the time when people are stuck on something and they're like, oh, I just want to shift my life contract, sometimes they have to learn a lesson or something for the other pieces of their consciousness to be in agreement, because the other pieces in their consciousness might have like a goal or an agenda or something like that, or see the bigger picture and know like, oh, if you don't go through this, you won't get to this point. So you can't always shift your life contract just on your 3D, like living in your meat suit will alone. But I've seen it happen where people can shift their life contract. And sometimes I've been able to do it for people in my sessions if all of them is in alignment with something. So yeah, feeling stuck. Yeah, deleted a lot of social media. Yeah, and like there's so many levels going on that I don't mean this in like a spiritual bypassing way, but like this month has really been about me like stepping into like, okay, if I want a big shift to happen on the earth and like I want a consciousness to be raised, I need to start living from love. And sometimes that means like not getting weighed down with like arguments or talking to people who are committed to misunderstanding me, kind of a thing. Because there are so many levels at work, you know, that like if someone feels hurt about something, I sometimes want to work it out. And depending on the situation, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I want to be like, I love you. I wish you well. We're not getting along. Bye. But it's really being about me getting clearer with my discernment and getting clearer on like vibrational discernment of like, is this a constructive argument or is this a non-constructive argument, you know? And I don't mean I argue with people a lot, but I do have an Aries moon, so I do like the odd argument once in a while to clear the air, you know? Yeah, love is the key to life. And that's something that the Akashic Records has said to me too, is that like, whenever you don't know what to do, like choose love, and that's probably gonna like be the best path, kind of a thing. And sometimes choosing love is choosing to love yourself before other people. So I don't mean like choose love in the sense of like you have to like bend over for other people and have no free will or anything. Yeah, and learning to forgive ourselves too, because like now that I've gotten into karmic work, like we've all been it all. So the people who are really like, oh, I really want to ascend. Sorry, the sun's like again in my eyes. The people who are like, oh, I really want to ascend. I'm like, that's great, but you probably have, because time isn't linear. So you've probably ascended a bunch of times. You've probably also been like a horrible, mean, not woke person many times. And like you've probably embodied everything in between. And once you ascend, it gets boring. So people tend to come back. And because time isn't linear, it's kind of all happening at once from the Akashic Records point of view, at least. So, yeah. It kind of put me in a bit of an existential crisis when I realized that, because I'm like, does anything matter? But I'm like, yes, it matters. It does matter. So, yeah. But like, love does tend to be the answer. Love does tend to fix almost everything. Even if you're disagreeing with someone, you're having an argument, and they're like, connecting with you and they're like, I love you, like I don't want to hurt you, but obviously we're hurting each other right now, like even that, you're like, oh, you don't want to hurt me and you love me, okay, and it like takes your guard down, right? But like sometimes people say that without the vibration of love behind it, and you're like, you're full of shit, you know? So discernment, once again, right, is like figuring out what feels right to us and what's best on our path. And yeah. And I've also started to learn to thank the people that like deeply trigger me, because it's all learning, right? And so sometimes the people that get my back up the most end up teaching me the most. So it doesn't mean I always want them in my life, but yeah, learning to find the blessings in things, you know? And then setting those boundaries and removing the toxicity when needed. So yeah. But each of you like have your own like guidance system, you have your own truth, you have your own knowledge that you're actually always connected to, but it just might not feel like it. Oh, the sun. I'm sorry, friends. I'm gonna move a little bit. Boop, ba-doo, ba-doo, boo. Okay. We're gonna go like this. Boob shot. But yeah. That's so much better. I love the sunshine, but not in my eyes. But yeah, if I say something or another spiritual creator says something, or even like a science creator, whoever says something and it feels like, yes, that's it. Like no one's teaching you anything. Like you're literally just like remembering something you already know. So I really encourage you, especially through 2021, but just in general, like don't give your power away too easily. Yeah, like if something really resonates with you, like it's amazing that that person is waking you up and making you remember that fact, but you knew it all along because you're actually connected to source, right? And I see this too with like spells and stuff, is like, I love a good spell, I love a good manifestation moment, but it's not like the herb in a jar that's making something happen. It's your will and your intention. And the same goes for like my readings, is like the people who are deeply committed to healing and like, I'm tired of this shit, I'm not doing it anymore, I'm not doing it, are the people who tend to like have the biggest experiences, right? And the people who kind of want like a fluff reading, that's all they get, and that's fine. Like I love a good fluff reading once in a while, but so much of it is based on intention, that like your spirit guides and the Akashic Records are going to meet you where you're at in terms of your intention, right? So you're so much more powerful than you realize. And yeah, if anyone's telling you something and you're like, this is really cool, like I really encourage you, like, don't give your power away by idolizing them. Like really just be like, wow, that's really cool, like that vibes with me, thanks friend for reminding me. But like there's no hierarchy in the spirit world, and like the spirit world in my mind is like reality, and we're just living in a simulation. So yeah, like no one's better than you, no one's worse than you, we're all just filling a cosmic reason, you know? Yeah, manifestations happening at rapid speeds. That's amazing. I love that. Oh yeah, if you hear kind of a humming in your... Oh, nice. My caption got me. Well, we're talking about the Akashic Records, so ask away if you have any questions about past lives and stuff, or life contracts. A humming in your ear, or like a like high-pitched kind of... I don't know what to call it. Like, it's not really a squeal. It's like a frequency change, I guess. Tends to be like your spirit guides reminding you that they're around. So yeah, I would tune into like the feeling you get when that happens and what the situation is. I get it a lot of the time when I'm like on the right path or feeling really loved and connected. I get like the frequency in my ear. But I do know people that it's like a warning sign for them. So once again, using your discernment, figuring out what your specific language with the universe is going to be best. Yeah. But it also could be a sign that you're a little bit more clairaudient. So there's essentially 6 basic psychic senses, and we tend to have all of them, but like 1 or 2 of them tends to be the most pronounced. And it might be clairaudient, so you might get more signs from the universe with like songs on the radio or the frequency change in your ear, or you might hear a voice when you tune in. I can't do that without like putting myself in a trance, and I probably shouldn't be doing that on a live. But like I do have the ability to. It's just more of like a setup than just like, you know. But I do have the potential for sure. Hear crackling in my ears, often have an inexplicable twitch in the right eye. Yeah. I don't know about the twitch. Like I sometimes get muscle twitches and sometimes they feel random and sometimes maybe they're a sign of something. But the crackling could be your guides for sure. I feel stuck. I think it comes from a contract in a past life. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing too with like me being shown life contracts is like I'm only shown a chunk. Like I'm not gonna know like when you die or like they won't even tell me like who you marry or something like that unless it's like very pertinent to the reading. So it's like they show me a chunk, and they'll often show me like the vibe or the energy that you're going through right now and how that's potentially going to affect the future, right? Yeah, having that stuck feeling. Yeah. And like this is such a great time to clean up your past karma, because like as we transition into hopefully the age of Aquarius and hopefully an age of enlightenment and everything, we don't want to be carrying like our past trauma and triggers and like not fun moments, you know? And it's wild how subconscious our karmic connections are, but like how much they affect our behavior day to day. So cleaning all that stuff up really does help us let go of stuff and start manifesting faster or living a more heart-led life or all that. Yeah. Yeah, meditation or journeying tends to be like the easiest way to get in there. So yeah, I tend to journey. I don't mind meditating, but I just find that like I get more when I put myself into a trance. So I do tend to do that. I have started channeling, but like I don't trust my channeling right now enough to like give great messages. So I've been right so far, but I'm still like nervous. Yeah. But like the Akashic Records is like, it's not like only certain people get to go there kind of a thing. I just don't recommend going there to look at your past lives if you don't know how to like psychopomp or like heal your past lives, because you're probably just going to get traumatized by seeing them and then not know what to do. And then as you're like, I don't know, picking your kids up from school or like making breakfast or something, you're going to be thinking about the awful things from your past lives. How do I explain exhaustion and depletion from lessons if guides are supposed to be helping? So like our guides can only do as much as we allow them to. And a lot of us have been disempowered, mostly by the Matrix, to think that we're not that powerful. So like you have the potential to clear, heal, and shift and learn lessons really quickly. But most of us think that it has to take a certain amount of time to happen, or we have to have a certain experience. So part of it could be like, you think you have to have a stomach ache to learn a lesson, and then the stomach ache persists. But once you get really aligned with how powerful you are and that like you are a cosmic being, you're like an eternal being in a meat suit. If you get really aligned in your will, you can start shifting these things really quickly. Sometimes too, tiredness is what I call integration. And so if we go through a big spiritual lesson, we sometimes feel exhausted. Like I find a lot of the people I help with past lives will feel really tired for about 3 days afterwards. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. You might feel a little bit more vulnerable or something like that. And even though the past life has been crossed over, so like any ghost you've been that I saw, I'll cross to the afterlife and make sure that lifetime's put to rest. And like we do forgiveness work and cord cutting and things like that. Even though I do all that, there's still like a letdown, like when you've been carrying something heavy for a long time, there's like oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I didn't realize how tired I was. I had to like hold the fort for so long. So that's integration, right? It's kind of like our spiritual body jumps forward and then our physical and emotional self has to catch up. So it could be partially that as well. But I would say like get really clear that you intend on living your absolute best life. And part of living your best life is not feeling tired and helpless, and start being like, spirit guides, you have my full permission to take off any attachments I have and dissolve, delete, and transmute them across all time, all space, all dimensions, all realities. Spirit guides, you have my absolute 100% permission to bring blessings into my life. Please bring blessings into my life. And if you start to feel tired, like asking yourself why am I feeling tired? Is this a I need to self-care thing? Is this a I'm integrating something? Or is this a I've decided that I can allow tiredness into my being and I don't want that anymore. So how do I shift that? I've started swiping things out of my existence. So like if I have a pain in my leg and I don't want to like have an achy muscle or whatever, I'll be like, okay, we're deleting this. And I'll imagine like almost like you're swiping on Tinder, like me just swiping it out of my existence. And I'm just like, no, we're not doing that anymore. So like, yeah, and that usually goes away for me. But I've only been able to do that as I've stepped into my power. I've only been able to like control the weather or like make a physical object move or things like that once I've stepped into my power. Once you realize that you're in a simulation and you're in the matrix and you're so much more powerful than you realize, and it's like connected to all the dimensional layers of yourself, that's when those things usually become easier, because you have to believe how powerful you are, kind of a thing. So it's totally possible. There's no difference between me and you. But yeah, a lot of it is like we say we want help, but we only want help in a specific way from our spirit guides. And I do this all the time. I'm so guilty of it. I'm like, please bring me this much money so that I can like have the life of my dreams. And then I have all this scarcity consciousness where I think I'm going to be like a horrible person and everyone's going to cancel me if I like have money and I'm spiritual, so I still have work to do there where like, I don't want to be like a tyrant billionaire, but like I have a certain amount of like at-risk family that needs some financial support, and I'd love to be the person to give that to them as they age and things like that. So like, I'm like, it's really a heart connected thing, but I need to work through my own scarcity blocks, because the universe is abundant. The universe wants to give to you. It's just, are we allowing it in? Oh, I'm so glad. Jaylina, I hope that's how you say your name. That's really cool. I'm glad. I'm going to try and make some more this week. I'm very like up and down with like my creation ability. So I know I'm a little bit inconsistent with the days I release videos and stuff, but yeah. Oh, good, Jules. I am wearing a shungite and I'm wearing I think this is rainbow moonstone, but a moonstone. Oh, I wonder if I could save this afterwards. Maybe I could upload it on YouTube or something. I think there's a like save option for me so we can see. Nice. That's such a pretty name. I like that. Yeah. So, and my memory's not great. I tend to like forget the past very quickly. But if you have questions about the Akashic Records that you would like a bigger YouTube video on, just comment on one of my Akashic Records videos and I'll try and get to a video around it. It helps me make content that's like, you guys are actually gonna, I mean, like, I'm sure all of it's interesting, but it's like, I'd like to be able to make tailored content for all of you. Yeah. I'll have to see about TikTok. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry about your husband passing this. That must be so hard. But also, I'm sure you two are going to meet again and reincarnate a bunch of times. So, yeah. Oh, I guess maybe I could start screen recording next time. Is there anything that we don't already know? Oh, I mean, there's probably lots I don't know already. Like something I found out like last week is there's more than one void And the void isn't fully a void, it just appears like a void, but it's like, you know, when you meditate and you clear your mind, it's like that kind of energy is in the void. So it feels like nothingness, but it's deep connection to all, but it doesn't appear in like material things. But like there's a void that the Akashic Records is like almost like friends with. Like they mutually love and respect each other because they're like the opposite of each other, which I think is really cute. Oh, that's so lovely that you still communicate. That's amazing. The story of me coming into my power is kind of funny. I used to see spirits when I was a kid, and I didn't even understand the concept of a spirit. I was so young, so I just thought, like, sometimes at night faces appear above your crib. Like, I was so young, I was in a crib. Like, I remember this. And I had like a ghost living in my washing machine, and I was convinced he was real, and everyone was like, Leona, he's not real. So like I had a bunch of encounters growing up. I saw ghosts when I was like in Barkerville, which is like a old mining town in BC. I saw one in Disneyland. Like, so like throughout my life, I've seen like the odd ghost and spirit. And I used to remember like past lives. Like the first past life I remembered, I think I was 9 years old in this life. And I was on the playground, and I remembered like I was just existing, playing on the playground, and I got hit with this memory of like drowning in the Nile with like a heavy breastplate on, like a brass breastplate. And like I was smart, but I don't think I knew enough about history to like understand like what style they'd wear and things like that. And then I really wanted to be normal, so I like pushed it away for a long time. Like 10 years, a long time, like a very long time. And then I went through some tough challenges, like some traumatic things, and I found therapy wasn't cutting it for me. It wasn't going deep enough. The only thing that helped me in therapy was these guided meditations where I'd go talk to my inner child, essentially, which looking back, I'm like, that was very shamanic. And my mom did a soul retrieval for me years after that, and I'd never told her about these meditations. And she went to the exact place I used to go in these meditations and found the exact same soul pieces of my inner child. And there was like an older one that protected the younger ones, and they're like would read to them, and she described it in like great detail, this exact like forest clearing I saw in the spirit world. And I was like, okay, that's wild. So it's kind of like I learned how to journey and things like that out of necessity, but I was really trying to test whether it was real or not. And eventually my spirit guides were like, I was getting frustrated because I'm like, I'm not seeing enough in the journey. Like, you know, when you meditate and you're like, I'm not seeing anything. So like, it must not be real. I was doing that. And my spirit guide looked at me and was like, we're only showing you as much as you believe. So like the subtext was like, shit or get off the pot kind of a thing. And I was like, oh shit, like they know. And I'm like, you know, it's real when you know that like you would never make this up, you know, like my ego would not say that to me. Like, I would be like, you're amazing. My ego would be like, you're amazing. I love you. Like, you're the best or you're the worst. But I'm like, that is not something my ego would generate. So I'm like, okay, this is real. And I decided, I committed to the path, and then just started learning more. Oh, you seem to get stuck. I mean, a lot of it's intention. I would also question which void you're going to. Because like there's different spirit worlds, so you could be going into like a void of duality, so like one in like the realm where there's good and bad and everything in between. So like if you're in doubt, maybe set the intention to go into the 369 void. That's like the best name for it. So going into the 369 void could be the best. There's more than one, right? And just like you can ask your spirit guides like, hey, can you bring all of my consciousness back to me if I get stuck? And just really intending deeply for like all pieces of you to come back. And I mean, it is easy to get lost in that feeling of everything and connectedness. So sometimes too, it might just be a part of you wanting to continue the experience kind of a thing. Oh, so my bookings is lionheartleo.com, and then you can click on the drop-down menu for services, and you can check out my past life Akashic Records, or I have a heart healing package, which is like, I first journey to your spirit guides and ask for a message and ask what the 3 journeys or healings I should do for you are. And so I'll do that. And then I do 3 journeys for you. So it's 4 for the price of like 1.5. It's like, yeah, like a very good deal, a very, very good deal. Cause yeah, like 4 separate sessions with me would be way more than that. So, that one's pretty intense because like we do so much shifting work in one day that like most people almost don't even have questions at the end because they're like, holy shit, that's a lot of information to take on. But if you like bang for your buck, Heart Healing Package tends to include past life stuff for most people. Not always. It's based on what your spirit guides say, but they'll also take into consideration like what you'd like. So if you do, I have a little intake form when you book with my calendar booking system. So if you are like, like I want to do the Heart Healing Package, but I also really want to know past life stuff, like you can put in a note, like I'm really curious about, or I'd really like to ship this. Zach, what's up? Hello. Alessia, is there a reason why one past life, example World War II, would be so prominent in my current life? Yeah, there's probably unfinished business or something that you need to like know or remember from that lifetime that's going to serve you in this lifetime. The lifetimes we tend to remember are like the tough ones. Sometimes they're the good ones, but most of the time the good ones are at peace and like almost don't want to be dragged back into their old reality. Like I did a meditation retreat and we all felt pretty connected to the land we were on. So like everyone was like, oh, I think I've had a past life here. We should do a past life meditation and see like if we have a past life from this place. And a lot of people in the group were like, I was your sister and I did this thing to you and I remember this. And my past life self was so happy in that like geographic location that yes, I had lived there, but they were like, oh, why are you pulling me away from the Great Spirit? Like, I'm so content. Like, yes, what would you like? And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. I was just curious. Okay, goodbye. And he had a great life. Like he lived longer than expected for like the time in history he lived and had a wife that he really connected with, this past life version of me, and really had a great relationship with like his spirituality and his self and always had enough. And when he died, he crossed over and was set. So like he was kind of like mad almost that I was like pulling him back into his personality through this meditation. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was cute. So, but the point of me saying this is that like our troubling past lives tends to be the ones that we remember, right? So there might be some unfinished business, especially too, like some of the historical things that are going on right now that are going to become world history, kind of mimic World War II, right? Like we haven't fixed a lot of those problems, just the geographical location of like certain things have changed, right? So, yeah. And you can like pray to your guides too and be like, hey, like if there's a piece of me that needs to let go, can you help them cross over? They might not have crossed. Like you could have a ghost version of you existing from World War II and still be vibing in your meat suit as you. So it might even just be that. So if you have an angel or an ascended master that you connect to or a spirit guide, you might want to like get really intentional and like maybe take a few deep breaths and connect to like your inner light and your inner wisdom and maybe just ask if they've crossed over and see if you get a sense of it. And then if you get a sense that they haven't, just be like, hey, like if they're willing to cross, like Archangel Michael or whoever you vibe with, like can you go find that past life version of me and cross them over? And that might really help too. So, but they might also be trying to give you a message, right? Like, yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I'd love to work with you. That'd be great. And I always find too with like timing, these things always work out when they're meant to. So, yeah, it'd be awesome. I love doing this work for people. So I feel so blessed to be able to share this. And I don't think most people realize too that like it's easier to have other people do like the journeying or meditation part of the past life healing for you. Because even if you heal it yourself while you're like in the Akashic Records, like let's say you meditate, you go to the Akashic Records and you know how to psychopomp safely and you do that. Most people don't know how to psychopomp safely, which is crossing ghosts over. Most people don't even realize you can be a ghost in a past life. But like, let's say you know how to do that all safely and you can do it. It's still not fun to see and relive your worst moments, right? Whereas if someone else goes to see my past life, it's still upsetting probably, but it doesn't hit them deeply like it would hit me deeply. So I still like, even though I've been doing this for like over 10 years, if I can do a trade with someone who's trained in my method, I prefer to do that for my past life stuff for myself, because I get all the information, I get all the healing, they're just as capable as I am. But that really deep, like, watching yourself go through the worst thing doesn't happen in the same regard as if you went to the Akashic Records and dipped into the lifetime and saw it. Yeah, so sometimes it's worth finding a good healer or reader to do this work for you, because the recovery time is so much easier and you're less likely to get as deeply triggered. It can still be upsetting. It's hard sometimes to hear the hard things that we've gone through, but by the time like someone like me does the healing and then reports back to you, like, it's been healed, so it's like easier to digest, kind of a thing. Yeah, a lot of people, if they go through something traumatic, or like, I see this a lot with like nuns and priests in past lives, like especially like Christian ones, where like they're afraid of like the afterlife, so they just don't cross over. They're afraid that they've sinned too much, that they just are like, I'm just not gonna go anywhere, and they like stay in the overlay of our world where duality is. And because from the Akashic Records point of view, it's in the 8th dimension mostly, so like time doesn't exist in a linear fashion there. It almost is like this really expansive web of all the potential timelines happening kind of all at the same time. It's like a very expansive, like multi-layered web. So it's not just like out that, like it's so many different ways. There's so many different timelines. Depending on what you choose to do, like the timeline shift like all the time, right? So everything's extremely expansive, and time isn't linear outside of our third dimensional construct, right? So you can be a ghost in your past life and still be connected to the Akashic Records through that life contract and that connection to your higher self, and your higher self can still send you to Earth while your ghost version is existing on Earth, sometimes from like 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, right? So yeah, I grew up Christian and still feel worried about the afterlife. Yeah. And the thing I would say to that, the thing that's really helped me, like, really accept unconditional love from, like, Source or God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, is it just does not logically make sense to have a force outside of the creator, right? Like, then whatever created that would be the creator, right? So, like, Source really has to be everything that ever was and ever will be. So you cannot be outside of God. You cannot be outside of the creator, right? You cannot be outside of Source. And when you realize that, if you're not outside of it, why would it send you to an eternal timeout where you like burn? You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense. That's honestly why I like karma so much more as like a method. Because like if you're this expansive creative being and you created creation because you were bored knowing everything, so you split yourself off into tiny little pieces of yourself so that you can partially forget who you are, it just makes sense that you'd return to who you are eventually, right? And it just makes sense that it's a distorted reality where we forget things that we live in. But like there's nowhere to send you because there's nothing outside of it, right? And so the best way I can describe something that feels like darkness or pain is that like you don't know you're tall if you've never seen anyone shorter than you, right? Never. If you've never seen anyone a different height than you, there's no construct to be like, oh, I'm tall, right? And the same goes for if we're eternal beings of light or love and we never experience something that doesn't feel like light and love, it's kind of meaningless because it's just everything that ever was and ever will be, right? So we come here to the third dimension where everything's physical and we have all these like rules and boundaries on us so that we can better understand who we are by seeing what we're not. So if someone, I don't know, like steals something and that doesn't sit right with me, I'm like, wow, I don't like that because that doesn't feel loving. I better understand I'm a loving being by watching someone not be loving in a moment, right? And we all do it sometimes, right? I'm maybe not steal, but we all act not fully out of love sometimes, right? That's part of the construct that we're in. But it's like, would you play a video game if you knew you were going to win every time and there was no rules or like functioning in it, right? So like our meat suits are kind of like going into a video game and having certain boundaries to make the game more fun, right? Yeah, I mean, it's rare to only live one life, but never say never, right? It's just interesting to me, this concept of like a new soul, because I'm like, there's so many timelines and stuff going on that like when people are like, oh, it's your first lifetime you've ever lived, it's like, yeah, maybe in our linear earth construct of it, that's what you're being shown. But like past lives are only past lives because we've decided they're past lives and they're past in our history. So sometimes I'll get a really open-minded client and I'll see their future lifetime where I see a future version of Earth, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to go down that same timeline and that's going to be the Earth of my future, you know? But yeah, I've seen like lifetimes like 2,000 or 3,000 years in the future, and some of them are a lot brighter than others, but there's sometimes different versions of reality. So yeah, it's possible to only come here once and be like, nope. But you also have to realize how many like different planets there are and like dimensions you can incarnate into as well. So it's not just the third dimension you incarnate into. You can also go into the 4 and 5 dimension. And like there's so many different planets that like maybe you're a new soul to Earth and it feels weird on Earth, but are you a new soul completely? You know, it's possible. It's just rare, you know? Are soulmates a thing? So like I do believe in life contracts. So I do think there's either like one person that you've kind of contracted to be with, or sometimes like multiple people. So like if you, let's say, like are supposed to get married twice to learn a lesson, you might have like 2 kind of soulmates in that sense. Or you could have a very open, loose life contract where you're kind of like go with the flow and there isn't too many like I have to hit these points. So you could have like a, okay, if I move to this place, I'm going to marry this person. But if I move to this place, I'm going to marry this person. And then you can choose in your life where you go. So it's not like the twin flame theory as much as more like people that would be well suited to us to learn the things that we want to learn or experience the things we want to experience. I do find most people who have significant relationships do have a lot of karmic ties, and we tend to switch the roles up. We also tend to incarnate in groups. So I call those soul groups. Yeah. No, not necessarily. It says you have to wait for your whole soul family to die to reincarnate with them. Like, time's so loose in the spirit world that, like, they'll figure it out. Yeah. You too, Jules. Sending you so much love. Have an awesome day. Yeah. And your soul family's a lot bigger than you probably think it is. Like I've had like past lives with like landlords and bosses and things like that, and like you think like, oh, that's not a huge relationship in your life, but like I know them, you know. So it's a bigger group of people we tend to reincarnate with than we realize. Still trying to wrap your head around how past lives work. Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to think of it is like, if you were a creative being that has access to like so much knowledge, almost like it's like every time you play a video game, you want to like change your character up kind of a thing, or you might play with new friends or whatever, like whoever is available. So it's kind of like that. It's like, it would be boring to not ever come back, right? So, and sometimes too, it's like, it's fun to know how things work, but I'm like, I don't need to necessarily know every tiny little detail of how something works to like accept it, you know? So I don't fully understand time yet. I understand a lot of it, but I don't fully understand it. And that's okay, you know? Yeah, that's definitely possible. Having a parallel incarnation from another place. The thing is too, like, one of my past lives lived like 2,000 years, right? So I'm sure there was parallel lifetimes going on at the same time, where like I was on Earth during those 2,000 years when they were like bebopping around the galaxy, right? So definitely possible. Yeah. Yeah. So wild. Such a wild time. Yeah, some of them do, some of them don't. Uh, there's some beings that are like, they almost don't even have a body. They're just like blobs of light, and like it's a very chill existence that they live. Um, but it's not as like challenging as Earth. So like there's almost this sense of like it's kind of like taking like a really easy class in your course load. Like it's like, yeah, it's fun to have like a block where you don't have to do very much or like nothing's expected of you. But do you learn that much? You know? Like if all your blocks were like that, would you even want to go to school? So it's kind of like that where it's like um yeah, there's places where like you're just like everyone's loving and there's no duality and this is great, but it gets kind of boring, right? And then there's different like star beings that you could be. Like there's like an amphibious planet where people have like web feet and stuff and live underwater half the year. Oh, to be a blob of light with no responsibility. I love that. Oh, creepy. I mean, the black shadow figure could be a guide of yours that like you just can't see yet, but it could also be something that you don't want there. So I'd just be really clear and maybe protect your space. I mean, I think it's kind of like self-centered of us to think that there wouldn't be any other life out in the rest of the universe. Like maybe not in our galaxy, maybe not in our solar system, but like at all ever. And something that really like blew my mind, I was watching this documentary. I think it was filmed in like the 90s. They were like putting radio signals out into space to see if radio signals would come back to essentially see if there were aliens. And something that one of the scientists said in this documentary was like, I mean, the thing is that like we've always been looking for carbon-based life. But like what if other life out there isn't carbon-based? And I was like, right? So I'm sure those light beings are not existing on the physical plane, but they might live somewhere else in our galaxy. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. But like the governments know, I'm pretty sure. The governments know about the Akashic Hall of Records. Like the CIA declassified a document on it. So I'm like, how can you know about the Akashic Hall of Records and make your CIA agents like do meditations to go there and not know about aliens, you know? Yeah. It fled after a protection prayer. Yeah. Doesn't sound like a fun time. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, I mean, you gotta wonder too. I'm like, why do aliens keep coming towards us? You know what I mean? Like, there is something interesting about Earth. Dang. Yeah. And the thing is, too, like, I do see a lot of people putting aliens on like a pedestal. Like, oh my gosh, they're so woke. And maybe they have more technology than us. Maybe some of them are a little bit more spiritually in tune than us. I don't know fully. But like, they tend to be fourth, third, fourth, and fifth dimensional, right? That's not always like what we want to be aiming for. Like I like to go eighth dimension and higher to get advice and guidance, right? So it's like I think it's important to respect other beings and like I have no like beef with them. But I think when we over glorify them, it means that we're only going to like the fourth and fifth dimensional level of consciousness and we could probably get better advice from like our spirit guides and the angels, right? So yeah, Earth is a hotspot for entertainment and trauma. Oh, I don't know about Tesla. Like the cars, you mean? Or do you mean the scientist? I'm assuming you mean the scientist. He did have some really like amazing insights, so I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, and I mean some of the aliens want to help and some of them don't, you know? And within races too, like some of the grays are just like technologically advanced beings that are very science based and logical, but like have no desire to hurt humans, and some of them have abducted them, you know? Like, and it doesn't mean that like all of them are bad or all of them want to hurt us, but like we need to be using our spiritual discernment and our discernment and our intuition to see like what's good for us or not, you know? And even if you think about like even meeting someone from another culture, like you could do something to accidentally offend them and not even know it, right? So when we're talking about beings that have a completely other way of existing, you could be potentially like traumatized or hurt by something that to them is normal, right? So once again, it's all about like communication and understanding, and it doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work with them. It just means like, can you trust the information you're getting? Who are you really talking to? Like, if a ship landed on Earth and people were like, we're gonna go meet them at this rooftop party, I probably would, like, go journey about it and decide for myself before having any contact with them, you know? I have, like, a deep fear of, like, alien abduction. So I saw a couple documentaries about things like that, but, like, I mostly tried to stay away from media about it. So I've seen like clips of Close Encounters, but like overall I've tried to keep it out of my mind. And like some aliens want to help us. Like in October they helped us get on like a happier, more peaceful timeline. Not all of them, but like a certain group of them did. So like the aliens that understand like timelines and space and stuff like that, some of them are doing amazing work from behind the scenes. So, but I think it's one of those things that it's just like, do they have an agenda? What's the agenda? Like, yeah. I think too, like we're a little bit, I don't know what the right word is. It's like because we're kind of top of the food chain on Earth, it's like deeply troubling to us at times to think about someone having more technology than us or having more real world power than us, where it's like very scary, you know? And like if you think about like how a human handles an animal, the animal probably doesn't like it, but we have that power over them, right? And so sometimes things are for their own good. We're like, oh, we got to take you to the vet because it's for your own good. But like, I don't know, your hamster, it could be like, yeah, don't pick me up, right? And it could be really scary for the hamster, and we're like, oh, well, we're doing it for its own good, right? But if an alien came and did something like that, like, oh, I'm abducting you for your own good, like, it would probably be deeply traumatizing to us because we value our free will so much. So once again, they're not all bad. Some of them are very loving beings, but it's really important to use your spiritual discernment, develop your intuition, figure out who you're talking to, ask what dimension they're from, ask what their agendas are, and not just to them, but like to your guides or your inner guidance. Because like your spirit guides and angels exist in dimensions where there's like essentially universal truth, like love and above is what I like to say, or eighth dimension and higher. And so in certain spirit realms, like where a lot of our guides and angels exist, like there's no need to lie because like they're just vibing in like love and light, you know? And then there's other spiritual realms where duality exists. So if you're meeting anyone in a spirit realm or a physical realm where there's duality, it's always a good idea to like make sure you're getting the facts and make sure that like your gut feelings being acknowledged or your intuition, you know? But yeah, I mean, they have cool technology and some of them do really want to help us. So like, you know, it's nice to know that like there's kind of like big brothers and sisters out in the universe, like making sure that like the yucky ones aren't doing too much yucky stuff. So I am very appreciative to that. But I think that sometimes people oversimplify the aliens thing. Yeah. And also like some of them live in such a dimension or state of consciousness that's like neutrality that it can almost feel creepy to us because we like our emotions, you know? Yeah, I mean, the records hold everything that's ever happened. So, like, if you passed away, they'll know if you're stuck on Earth, if you're a ghost, if you've crossed, all of that. And it's, like, filed there. Interesting, yeah. Well, if you have a, like, parallel lifetime going on, makes sense that you're like, what is this? Yeah. It's very cool stuff. But yeah, like the Akashic Records like records like other lifetimes too. So like I've seen some of my lifetimes where I've been like from Sirius B and Sirius A. I access it through putting myself into a trance, like a spiritual trance. I find it's easier to do that. I call it journeying. I like journeying because I'm still in my body. So like if someone like opened my front door or like there was a house fire or an earthquake or something, like I would be aware of it. When you astral project, a lot of the time your whole consciousness leaves your body and you kind of like aren't in there anymore. And so it leaves you open to like spiritual crap, but it also leaves you open to like, are you going to get back in time if something in the physical world happens? So that's how I like to do it. But other people meditate, so it's honestly fine to go to the Akashic Records. Like, it's in the 8th dimension, so nothing really can like hurt you there. The only thing I would say is be aware of like the spirit realms, because sometimes things will try and trick you into thinking you're somewhere that you're not. So having a really clear intention of like, I'm going to the Akashic Hall of Records, and feeling when you make that shift between the 3D overlay and getting to a place where you could access the Akashic Records. So like that's one thing, is just be really clear about your intention and like only take that as an answer kind of a thing. And then the other thing is, I would say if you're just going to meditate and go, or like journey or whatever and go there, like maybe ask some questions to like the workers or the consciousness itself if you're curious about things. But I would say as much as you can, steer away from looking at your troubling past lives unless you feel really drawn to. Like, once again, use what resonates with you and stuff. But like, if you just go and look at whatever past life shows up without setting an intention to look at the happier ones, then you might be like re-traumatizing yourself without having the tools to really like heal or fix it. Yeah. So that's the one caution I would say. That's why I like the idea of hiring someone to do it for you, or doing a trade with someone, or learning more about how to psychopomp and things like that before doing past life healing in that sense, is just because it can be very overwhelming. Oh yeah, I mean the third eye chakra is like your psychic intuition point. So like you can tap into like past lives and like the Akashic Records just like existing a lot of the time through your psychic access point. It's just harder, I find, for people to just like turn that on. But like people like Sylvia Brown or like really like psychic people can just know things for sure. So yeah, so my bookings are lionheartleo.com/services. I also, if you just go to my homepage, it should be linked in my bio. There's like a services drop down button, and you can choose like past life Akashic Records work or my heart healing package. Yeah, so I'd love to work with you, and it's all through Calendly, my booking system. So you can just choose what time works for you and fill out the intake form, and then yeah, I suggest Zoom out of the Zoom or Google Hangouts option, because then I can send you a recording. Yeah, but I journey on your behalf. It depends on the person, like how many past lives we do, but it does tend to be like huge chunks of work we do. So like there might be like 30 lifetimes around the same issue, or like 100, and they tend to show me like 4 or 5 lifetimes with like the specifics as to why you might be carrying like a fear or a pattern or a block. But then they'll be like, okay, there's like 42 lifetimes where this is an issue. Do you want to like cross them all over and like heal them all at once? So I tend to do like, I call it like efficient healing, or sometimes like for myself, I'll call it lazy healing. But I'm like, if you're going to pay for a session, you may as well get as much bang for your buck. So I do tend to do like big chunks of healing as much as I can for people. I mean, like, my mom taught me her method. So my mom and one of her shamanic friends created the method that I use, where they combine shamanic psychopomp with accessing the Akashic Records. So the method that I teach people and the method that I use has actually been created by my mom and this other shamanic practitioner. So I've kind of always known it's possible since I was a kid, because I grew up in this household where it was talked about. But it was funny because I taught Supermoon Tarot my method. She's one of my friends, and like I taught her my method, and she didn't like clue in right away that it was like my mom's method that like her and her friend created. So it's cute. They have like this super cute little bond now, because she's like, thank you so much for showing me. And then Supermoon channels, so she'll sometimes send my mom a channeled message and they kind of vibe. So it's very sweet. So the thing with working with children is like, I tend to steer away from it. It tends to mostly be 18 plus, just because like, although you're the guardian in this lifetime, like an Akashic Record spirit world point of view is like they have their own free will. So I'm probably not going to get very good healing or advice for someone if you're asking me to do it on someone else's behalf. So I would say the best thing to do is probably like pray to their guides about it, pray to their higher self about it, and just like ask for healing in whatever form it comes, and you start setting those intentions for like the highest and best for them. And then depending on their age, I guess too, but like they kind of have to like step into wanting to heal that and ask for it and all that for it to really work very well. So I do tend to not work with kids for that reason. It's just, it gets very like gray area about like permission and things like that, and do the kids fully understand what I'm doing? But it could. But the other thing too is like, there's so many reasons that could be like the spiritual cause of something as well as like a physical cause. So it's not always going to be past life. It could be a ghost is attached to them. It could be something else is attached to them. It could be an ancestral thing. It could be a past life thing. It could be a coding thing. Maybe there's something off in their coding. So sometimes the best thing to do first is to ask. But if you booked a session with me for yourself, like I could ask their spirit guides or your spirit guides, like what the spiritual cause is. Yeah. And sometimes like my guides will be like, yeah, it is actually just a chemical imbalance in a brain for certain things. And like, they should go talk to a doctor or, so it's always interesting. Sometimes it's, not what we expect. And sometimes it's exactly what we expect. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, I am planning on doing a course at some point. It just feels like a little weird, like, laying it all out there, you know? I'm happy to do it. I do think more people would be great learning past life work and stuff like that in this method. But because I'm not just like meditating, it's like quite an in-depth like spiritual practice. It's almost like you went and apprenticed for someone. So it's like, it's just hard to translate like the amount of effort and like expertise that I've acquired to then put it into like an online course. You know, I almost would feel better like doing it in person, so there's more like connection. So I'm struggling a little bit with like how to package it and like give it to people, because it's not just like an afternoon. It's like it'll probably take you 6 months to like really fully feel comfortable and confident in the method that I use. Yeah. American Big Hair, that's amazing! Ah! Oh my gosh. Oh, and like so much of that was you. Like I may have held space and facilitated it. But like, that's amazing. Yes. Thanks for telling me. You definitely did not have to. That is your business, but like, I'm so happy to hear that. I wish you all the happiness in the world. That's yay. And that's really what helped me to like find my fiance, was like doing a lot of really not fun past life work where I was the bad guy a lot or I was the victim a lot. It was, yeah. Nice. Coral, hello. Gwen, hello. Katie, I would love to meet you in person and do all this. I'm so bummed out that the retreat is not happening this year. I mean, I think for COVID reasons, I feel much better. Especially they're talking about closing Mexico's borders, and I just would not feel good right now bringing a bunch of foreigners to an at-risk place. But as soon as the pandemic like gets under control, I'd love to do an in-person Blunt Witch, hello! An in-person retreat somewhere, or a workshop or something. So yeah, I think that'd be really fun. And I even like with my Meet Your Guides class, it's a pretty small group of us, so I offered them like one-on-one like 45-minute call, which like isn't listed when you purchase, but like I just at the beginning of January I was like, I think this would be like a nice gift, you know? So I offered it to the people who had enrolled in 2020, and it was so nice to just like connect with people and like answer those questions, because I do lives in those classes, but I think I would thrive more in a one-on-one experience. And yeah, so we'll see. Right now I'm in BC, so on the West Coast. Yeah, I would love to do a spiritual retreat once the pandemic's over. I think that'd be great. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think too, because like I could open sacred space for everyone and we could like vibe in this like beautiful energy. That's like my favorite part about meditation retreats, or like the really good ones at least, is like uh if you get to like hang out in that like high vibrational space, you don't even have to like comprehend what you're doing, and like it shifts things and changes things for you. Oh, that's so fun. Well, I do sessions online as well. So if you ever want to book a Zoom session, you'd get the same information and everything. And you could get a recording of it too, which would be great. But yeah, I'm hoping in the next couple months I can do like a spirit horse day where my friend who has they're like medicine horses, so they're like quite psychically in tune, and they act as mirrors and help us bring up the stuff that we need to look at and address. And we get to like hang out with actual horses, like they're not just like in the spirit realm, like they're real horses that are spiritually in tune. So she has a labyrinth with crystals in it that like helps to like align your chakras as you walk this labyrinth, and you get to like hang out with these horses that like act as mirrors and bring up stuff for you, to like look at and address. And then at the center of the labyrinth, we'd probably do like a group meditation or like a journeying experience. And the horses kind of hold space for us as we do that. So it's something that I have in the works. It's just with the pandemic, we kind of have to see, we can socially distance, but like BC has quite strict rules right now. So yeah, it's so fun. I want to get her on my podcast too. I'm going to get my podcast up and going again in February, I think. So yeah. I love them. I'm very like kinesthetic, so like getting to actually like go vibe with horses is like so lovely. Yeah. And yeah, they're so it's like if I ever had the resources to have a horse, like I'd never ride them. I would just like let them exist and eat hay and stuff, and I'd just go like vibe with them and meditate with them, and yeah, give them all the love. So yeah, that's something I want to do. So if you're on Vancouver Island, I don't know if anyone on here is, but that's something I'll be doing this year in person, hopefully. So yeah, should be good. Yeah. Uh, Ponies. I love a good horse moment. They're so smart and psychic. Like other animals are too, but horses are very interesting. When you study the difference between herd animals and like predatorial animals, there's like a very different vibe, and like herd animals really help us be in like unity consciousness and things like that. Um, and it's a very different energy. And because we have our eyes on the front of our head, we are naturally like predatorial animals. So to get to integrate with the energies of a herd, um, it brings like a really beautiful new perspective and stuff. I don't know much about elves. I tend not to work with those realms quite as much. Kind of like people, I feel like the fae and like those sort like gnomes and things like that do tend to have like a different set of rules than people, but they also tend to be like, some of them are really benevolent and loving and bring really high vibes, and some of them are maybe more mischievous. Yeah. Oh, fun. Yeah. That's so fun. I love Souk. When the pandemic started, I used to drive to Souk potholes sometimes and go like vibe in the forest far away from people because lockdown was like rough. Yeah, that's so fun. Yeah. So yeah, this is up in Coombs, so by like Goats on the Roof, so a bit of a drive from there, but it's a nice drive. So yeah, I mean, I do try to stay away from like the trendy things and try to go with like my gut on things. Um, I think it's just like important to respect them and things like that. I don't think they're all like out to get you or anything, but because they have a different set of rules that they work with, kind of like with aliens, it's like you just want to have your discernment about you and don't agree to things that you don't want to, and like understanding how their rules and stuff operate, you know? Um, yeah, but I have respect for them. No hate. It's just a different way of existing. So, I mean, the first time I did a journeying workshop, I heard like a twinkling, like happy fairies right outside the tent I was doing it in. So, I would come back from my journey before everyone else in the group, and I'd just sit there listening to like the twinkling. No one else heard it, but I was like, "Oh, cool! Well, maybe all the dates will line up, and we can do a workshop of some sort." Yeah, there's a lot of cool places on the islands, like labyrinths and um, lots of cool nature. So, yeah. I don't know why, too, but like lots of woo woo people tend to gravitate towards Vancouver Island. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's just see. Um, does anyone have any past life or Akashic Records questions? I probably can't stay on much longer, so I have another like maybe 10-15 minutes if anyone has any thoughts or questions or things that they'd like to talk about. It doesn't have to be past life too. It could be anything: spirit horses, meditation, ghosts, anything. Oh, so I really try and stay away from astral projecting because I really like to be in my body. I've done it accidentally once around the time the Sirius portal opened, but I felt very like protected and like it was like planned with my spirit guides. Um, so I do try and stay away from astral projecting because it kind of leaves your body wide open to things like sleep paralysis or like physical stuff happening. Like if there's a fire in your building and you're not in your body, are you going to survive the fire? Like those types of things. So I don't tend to recommend astral projecting. I think meditation, you can do a lot of the same things, but you are aware of what's happening in your physical world. But that being said, if you like astral projecting, like no shade, you know, you do what's right for you. Use your discernment, do what resonates. With sleep paralysis, I do tend to find that most of it is some kind of spiritual interference. So like what I would call a middle world being or someone who like exists in the spirit world of duality. And when I say duality, I mean there's good and bad and everything in between. So beings that might want to use your energy for something or take over your body or attach to you, or they feed off fear, so they try and make you get really afraid. All of those types of things. I also think it's interesting that people will paint the things they see when they have sleep paralysis, and like people all over the world see the same types of beings. So I'm like, that's interesting to me. But I would say the best thing you can do is use your free will in those moments. So even if you can't physically connect to your body in that moment, or you can't move, or you're stuck there, your intention's still there. And so you can be like, I am invoking my right of free will. I have free will. I'm a sovereign being of light, and you do not have my permission across all time, all space, all dimensions, all realities to mess with me. So like heck off, fuck off, all that. And then I would start invoking someone like an ascended master or an archangel. Like Archangel Michael is very protective. He has like his cool sword and stuff. So I would just start invoking. Sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 times to really like get your message across. But like if you start invoking like Archangel Michael, it'll be like, in the name of Archangel Michael, like I command you to leave me alone. Like you do not have a right to touch me. Like heck right off. I have free will. Like you are not allowed to touch me. And then ask like Archangel Michael or someone to start like smiting them or something, like protecting you. Most people think that they're so much more disempowered than they are. And so you always have your intention. You always have your free will. And invoking a being of love and light that you like and you work with, hopefully, is a great way to get rid of spiritual attachments, things in your house, like demons or sleep paralysis, spooky things. Because like nothing can really affect us if a part of us isn't open to it. So getting really clear in your intention and being like, you can heck right off. You do not have permission to mess with my free will is very important. And so it goes for anything that's kind of messing with your energy. Even if someone's like got a cord attached to you and they're like someone you love, but like they're draining your energy, being a bit of an energy vampire, like you can do the same thing. You do not have permission to like drain my energy, like with love, heck right off. You do not have permission. So it's really about like stepping into our power and invoking things. But most people think they're like bothering Archangel Michael or only really important stuff, or they're not even like aware that they can do this. But I had an experience once where I was pulled out of my body at night. I think it was a curious being. I don't think it was like trying to hurt me, but it just didn't understand like consent. So like it grabbed my spirit by the shoulders and pulled me up towards the ceiling of my bedroom. And it took me about 20 minutes to get myself back in my body. I had to really like resist. But I started at the end invoking like Michael and like beings of light and like asserting my free will and being like, you do not have permission to take me somewhere. Like you do not. So I think it just wanted to show me something. But I'm like, no, like put me back in my body. And I couldn't move because I wasn't in my body. So that was really spooky. It never happened to me again. But yeah, like that I could sense was just a curious spirit. Like I think it wanted to show me something. But I was like, no. Like I am a human. I do not want to be out of my body right now. Like thanks, but no thanks. So yeah. Oh, the other Sirius, like the star, like Sirius A and Sirius B. Any tips for healing after meeting an inner child? Oh, I would say if you've met a version of your inner child that's like not in you, like it's not like you went within, I would pray to your guides and ask them to return any soul pieces that are willing to come back. Or it's something I do in my heart healing package. So you could book a soul retrieval with a shamanic practitioner as well. Yeah, 20 minutes. Yeah, Michael's awesome. And the thing too is that like I think a lot of us think of our spirit guides in human parameters. So we're like, oh, I don't want to bother them. Like they're probably really annoyed that I keep asking for stuff. Like I can't ask for anything too small because that would be annoying to them. They're interdimensional beings that understand how time and space work. So like I don't think they do get drained like a human friend would, but like let's say they could. Let's say they could get burnt out and they're like, oh, this person keeps asking me for so many things. They like are infinite beings, so they can go to like a space hot tub in like another dimension for like 1,000,000 years of Earth time and pop back in, and it feels like a second has passed in our lives. So, yeah. You can ask for like parking spots. You can ask for like, I don't know, to find $5 and see if it happens. Like, they have our back. So got an oracle deck. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. Any tips? Yeah, my big tip is like setting clear intentions before you start. So being really clear on the question you want to ask and hopefully connecting to like your inner wisdom or your intuition or connecting to like an upper world being. Like, so I tend to feel it through like my crown chakra and like up into like the higher dimensions because like I know intuitively what that feels like. But just setting a deep intention, like, who are you asking the question to? Is it yourself? Is it a specific spirit guide? Is it all your spirit guides? And I find too, like, more theme-based questions tend to be good with an oracle deck or tarot. So, like, yes or no's are okay, but, like, it's better if you're like, where should I focus my energy? Or, like, is this a toxic situation? Or those sorts of questions tend to do better with oracle, and yes or no's tend to be better with something like a pendulum. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, Blunt Witch, about the hot water tank. Maybe you can ask for like an unexpected injection of money into your bank account too if you have to pay someone to fix it. um, can I explain what the Akashic Records are? Thinking about booking a reading. Oh yeah, no worries. So the Akashic Records is like the database to the universe. So it records all of our lifetimes on planet and off planet, and it's mostly an eighth dimensional space. So there's a consciousness that is the entirety of the Akashic Records that will sometimes talk to me. It's where our life contracts are held. And it's also where all the information for our past lives are held. But it also has like information on like the history of the galaxy there too, or the history of the universe. So it doesn't necessarily like show me everything. If I were to see your life contract, they'd show me the chunks that you would need to see to like heal whatever you want to heal, or like live your best life, or maybe like you book a reading where you're like, I really want to work on like money mindset. You know, they might show me the pieces of your life contract that will help you create a better money mindset kind of a thing. So they're not going to like show me like when you die or something like that. Like they have very good boundaries. They also never give you more than you can handle. So there is a little bit of an integration period where you might feel a little bit tired after a big past life healing. But like it's usually only like a few days, and it's just kind of like, you know, when there's like a full moon and you're like, wow, why do I feel so weird? And then it's like, oh, it's a full moon. It's kind of like that level typically. Most people don't have more than that. Occasionally someone might have like a detox symptom. Like one time when I cleared like 153 of my worst past lives, I got like a few hives, and it felt like I was holding these like toxins and deep beliefs, and it was like letting go. So it's like occasionally you might get something like that, but like it's never going to be more than you can handle. They only give you what you can handle. But yeah, it's very much based on the intentions we set. So if you say like, want to work on like your relationship with your sister, maybe you and your sister always butt heads and you trigger each other, you know, like you'd write that into the Calendly booking form when you book with me. And I would ask like, how do we heal this? What's the best past lives we can shift to make this better? Those sorts of things. Yeah, but it's a really cool space. So it's a loving realm. Anything above the seventh dimension is like pure love and light. So like nothing like trickstery is going to exist there to try and like trick me into doing something. Like that doesn't exist in the spirit realm I travel to. And I can cross over ghost versions of you in a past life. So most past life healers don't even realize this is a thing. But it's so helpful and so effective. And it really takes that charge, like the subconscious charge behind certain issues away, where it's like, oh yeah, I used to get really like triggered by this, or I used to have this really deeply ingrained pattern. And I just don't feel that anymore. Cause like we heal it, right? We shift it, we let go. Yeah, so the Akashic Records is great. It's very based on your intention. So the stronger your intention to heal or let go of stuff, the more effective it's going to be. I kind of facilitate things and hold space for people. And I'm trained in Psychopomp, so I can safely cross ghosts over without accidentally going over the veil or something like that. So it is good to be trained if you're going to try and do this, because it can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But yeah, it's really great. I had no idea before I got into past life work how deeply ingrained in our subconscious beliefs and therefore our behavior and our patterns karma is. So like if I go and heal a past life around why my boss is being like an ass to me, he all of a sudden starts treating me better. And I'm like, I like in hindsight, like, oh yeah, of course that's karmic. But when you're living it, you don't always clue in, right? So yeah. I do most of my work through journeying, which I find sometimes can be a little bit more clear than meditation. You can do it through meditation as well. Any time we're having trouble accessing something spiritual or intuitive, almost 100% of the time, it's going to be like our own block to it. So for some reason, we're blocking ourselves and our power and our knowledge. Some of that's like a life contract thing where like maybe in that lifetime, your soul contract is like, let's not be too woo-woo. Let's do other things, you know? But a lot of the time, it's like our own fears and limitations holding us back. So I would maybe do some EFT tapping on like, it's safe to be intuitive. It's safe to reach the Akashic records. It's safe to see things in my meditations. Even if I don't see things, it's okay to physically feel things. If visual isn't your first psychic sense, like your strongest one, you might not see the Akashic records and you might be there, but because you're expecting to see it, you're not doing anything while you get there because it's all maybe kinesthetic for you or claircognizant or something. So even just figuring out what your strongest psychic sense is and then seeing if it shows up in that way. When I journey, I get these like downloads where I don't see things like I'm seeing me in the camera right now. I get these downloads where like I could explain to you in detail like what kind of dress you're wearing in what exact like time in human history and like what your deep relationships were with other people. But I didn't like see it. I like saw it deep within my consciousness, you know? And then I can explain it to you and I can translate that. But if I was sitting there judging like, oh, it doesn't look like a movie, it doesn't look like I'm seeing anything, I wouldn't get very much information, you know? So some of it sometimes is just that, is giving yourself permission to have the psychic senses you have and leaning into that. You might get like an overall intuitive sense or like a gut feeling or, like maybe if your past life like got stabbed, like maybe you feel where you got stabbed and then, you know, those sorts of things. Oh, you felt way better after your reading. Aw, versus the full moon. Yeah, that can also definitely happen. Okay, but like Shelby, that was a really tough session. Like, you're a trooper. Like, I love you so much. I hope you're feeling better now, but like you came by that integration period, honestly. For real. Aw, love to you too, Sarah Ann. Clairaudience is yours, yeah. Yeah, they'll talk to you. If you just like ask, like if you like set the intention to go to the Akashic Hall of Records, ask one of your spirit guides to come with you, then you can ask your spirit guide, am I there? And they'll be like, yes or no. Or they'll be like, you have to do this thing. So if you open up your clairaudient abilities while you're meditating, I'm sure you'll have an amazing experience. It might take some time, you know, like it's like building a muscle. So like the more you believe what's happening, the better it's going to be. I would also recommend keeping a notebook by you and just saying to yourself, I'm not going to judge anything I see in this meditation until after I come back and write it down. And then before you talk to anyone or you open your phone or you do anything, after you're done meditating and you come fully back to your body, write down everything you remember. Because a lot of the time when I journey, I'm like, oh, I didn't really get that much. And then there's like 7 or 8 pages of notes I send my clients. And I'm like, oh, that's actually a lot of information. Okay. And it takes the whole hour to explain, you know? So yeah, time doesn't work the same in the spirit world. So a lot of the time we're like, oh, not much happened. But if you actually came back and wrote it all down and then you judged whether you got anything or not, that kind of, it takes that ego part of you away that's like, you can't do this. You suck at meditating. You're not really there. And if you just tell that part, okay, well, we'll judge that when I come back and I write it down. When I'm done writing it down, you can tell me all those things. It kind of helps. Yeah. Oh, I love that you have songs in your head, Katie. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, yes and no about the meds. Like, you can't fully be disconnected from the spirit world. Like, we're living in the Matrix. So, like, things can definitely make it harder. But, like, you can take medication, especially if it's prescribed to you and it's, like, what you need to function. Like, you can take medication and be spiritual. I think this is, like, a huge myth that people put out there that, like, you can't be on meds and be spiritual. Like, yeah, I used to take antidepressants and I was still spiritual, you know? Like, so I think it's dangerous sometimes to tell people like, oh, if you're on meds, you can't be spiritual. And it sometimes influences people to go off medication that maybe they really need to function, you know? Yeah. So like that's more between people's doctor and themselves and what they think is best for them. There are definitely medications that like will, or like alcohol or things like that, you know, it doesn't even have to be like something prescribed, but like there are things that will make it harder for you to be in a spiritual state. But like once again, your intention's everything. So like if you buy into this idea that, oh, if I take this thing, if I do this thing, I'm not spiritual, you're going to just keep reinforcing your own reality, right? Oh, cool. Yeah, it's so fun when you get into Akashic Records work. That's so cool, Pickly Andy 87. Yeah. And yeah, like sometimes a guided meditation is like easier for people, and sometimes people find it's like too intense. um, or sometimes people are like, oh, I don't like having the voice. I think too, like guided meditations tend to lean towards like seeing things, and then people get in their head about like, well, I didn't see anything, so I don't know if I can meditate. And like it's hard when you're making a guided meditation to be like, see, hear, feel, or experience. But like you can say that to yourself. See, feel, hear, or experience going upwards. See, heal, fear, or experience, feel, or experience. Like meeting your spirit guide or whatever. And seeing isn't always with our eyes. Yeah. Ooh, it's my favorite guided meditation. It's not one that's accessible to the public. My favorite guided meditation is something I bought like a money mindset program from Denise Duffield Thomas. And so in that, there's like a meet your future self and your ideal day meditation. But I did make my own version of an ideal day meditation. So like I have that, I think, in my intuition bootcamp bonuses. But I just love getting to go talk to future me, and it feels so real having my dreams happen. So yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. You and your daughter and your grandma. Yeah. And the thing too with life purpose is like we have many life purposes. Um it's very expansive. So like you could have something that you're supposed to be putting your energy into right now to live your highest and best existence. Um but it's a very fluid concept too. Oh, yay, I'm so glad you love the meditation American Big Hair. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, my friend who channeled my higher, or not my higher self, my future self for me. And it was like, kind of wow. I hope everything that they said comes true. Be nice. So, yeah. I'm thinking of writing a book on like the Akashic Records. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. And that's what my future self said I would do. Yeah, definitely trial and error. And you can make your own too. Like you can decide what you would like to do in a meditation, and record it for yourself, you know? My only thing is with that is like know what the spirit world is like, because you don't want to guide yourself to a realm of duality where like there's like potentially like trickster angry spirits or whatever. And also, like, if you leave your body ever in a meditation, in a journey, astral projecting, in a dream, setting the intention to fully come back before you, like, open your eyes and go off and do your thing. If you ever open a circle or open sacred space, you just want to make sure you close that. So if you're going to make your own guided meditation, if you lead yourself away, make sure you fully come back to your body. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, what's her name? Spooky something? She has like the makeup palette and she's like very funny. She's from Canada. She has a hearse. She's like a very famous TikToker. I can't remember her username. She's like really nice brown eyes. She's really funny. She was talking about how to publish your own book. So like you could totally be a writer. Also, you guys don't have to figure out the how. You just have to figure out what you want to manifest. Yeah. Spooky Selena. You are so right. She just did a video on that. I think she's holding up a book in the beginning, like thumbnail kind of a thing. Oh, cool. You mod for her channel. Amazing. Yeah, her sleepwalking videos. Yeah. I know, I love her. Um, and like that's light worker stuff too, is like making people laugh. But when it comes to manifesting, like let's say you want to write a book but you don't know what, you can like set the intention to like have a download or get a dream or whatever about what you should write your book about. What's the highest and best thing to write your book about? Ask for inspiration. You don't have to figure out how to get the inspiration. You can just ask your spirit guides. So like tuning into your spirit guides, setting a clear intention. Please show me what the highest and best book would be for me. Please give me a download. And then if you want to sell it or if you want to get a publisher, once again, you don't have to figure out the how. You should take the inspired action when you feel inspired and when your guides are pushing you towards it. But like, write your spirit guides a to-do list. Be like, yo, I want you to help me blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, you can do like, or whatever's in my highest and best, you know? Yeah. Oh my gosh, 100K in 1 year. That's awesome. So the thing with crystals is they all actually have their own personality. So there are like overarching archetypes with crystals, like moonstones tend to like help you open your consciousness, whereas something like shungite is like grounding and protective. So there are like overarching archetypes with them. Each crystal is going to have its own consciousness and spirit and personality. So I would almost suggest picking up a crystal that you feel drawn to, tuning into it, and then ask it like, are you willing to work with me on connecting to my spirit guides? And see if you get like an answer intuitively, a yes or a no, or worst case scenario, you can hold it, center your weight on your feet if you're able to, and safely stumble a little bit forward or backward. I find forwards is a yes, backwards is a no, but you can ask your crystal like, would you be willing to work with me on this? And then see if you just intuitively fall forward or backward. Catch yourself, make sure you're not around anything sharp, like do it safely. But that's another way you can ask your crystals questions. But I would say it's more based on the individual crystal consciousness than like the overarching archetype. So like, you know, things like selenite are great because they cleanse the space. I like a nice rose quartz moment because it's very like heart-centered and warming. But if a crystal was mined aggressively, it might be kind of put off that it got ripped out of the earth that way and might not want to work with you. Not because you did anything wrong, like, but maybe because they're just like, heck you humans, you know, like I don't want to do this. So it's better to ask them individually. I buy my crystals based on like going into a space with crystals and seeing which one is like calling to me. So sometimes I'll like be like, I was not gonna buy a crystal today, but I have to get this one, kind of a thing. Every so often I'll be like, I'm really sorry, I can't afford you. I'd love to work with you. Yeah, so I do like group coaching programs. I do a little bit of coaching in my readings too, like my sessions. But yeah, I would call myself like an intuitive coach, I guess. So I do have Intuition Bootcamp, which is you get my flow formula, and I really put a structure on building your intuitive muscles. You can just like trial and error it. Like I'm not saying you have to buy something to be intuitive, but if you need like help and support, it's like I share what has worked for me and a lot of my clients and students over the years in that. So it's really a lot of trial and error of like setting intentions, asking your guides for help, and understanding the structure. It's kind of manifestation, but it's like focused on intuition, but the same basic structure works for manifestation too. So I have that if you're like new to the spirit world and like spirituality. And then I also teach people how to journey, which is a bit more of a commitment because you're essentially like learning how to be a shamanic practitioner kind of a thing. So it's a higher price point and there's more of a commitment there. My spirit guides are like, people should only sign up for this if like they're committed to like leading a spiritual life. It's not like a fun party trick. Kind of a thing. But if that's something that vibes with you, I also have that. So all that's listed on my website as well. And then I have my monthly membership as well. So that's like a lower price point. And that's where I go more into like things I don't feel comfortable talking about on like YouTube or TikTok because of the algorithm. Like I talk a little bit about like exit points in a life contract, but like I wouldn't want my ideas to be misconstrued as like something problematic, where it's like, it's not, and I'm very careful about how I word it, but like, you know how algorithms can be, they can be like, this is inappropriate content. So that's kind of my space for me to be like, these are my spiritual safety tips. These are my healing meditations for the month. So every month I upload at least one module. And yeah. So also, like, no pressure. If you vibe with me, I'd love to work with you either in one of the programs or one-on-one. But also, like, I do lives. I'm happy to answer questions on my YouTube. So if you want a concept explained in more detail, I'll make lots of videos on there this year. And yeah. I do work internationally. So when you book with me, it'll say for like a one-on-one session, it'll say like, where are you purchasing this from? It's for tax reasons. And that's because with the Canadian tax laws, like there's certain taxes I have to pay if I'm selling to Canadians and certain taxes I have to pay if I'm selling internationally. So it's just a way for me to keep track of that for my accountant. I have Stripe and PayPal and Canadian e-transfer linked through my one-on-one sessions. So Calendly integrates with Stripe and PayPal. So if you're international, those are like pretty safe payment gateways. Like they do all the security stuff and manage the privacy stuff. So I trust Stripe and PayPal. They've been around for a long time. Yeah, so you can use a credit card, you can use your PayPal account, you can put money out of like a bank account into PayPal and pay that way. So you'll see on my website, if you go to like my booking page, so like lionheartleo.com, I think it's like past life healing. It's all linked on there. So you can choose like the PayPal button, the Stripe button, or like if you're in Canada, an e-transfer. Yeah. And then for all my courses and my membership is all through Teachable. So they integrate with Stripe as well. So they have like a secure payment page where you can enter in like your payment details. So yeah, I mean, I'd be open to doing ongoing one-on-one coaching with people if someone did want to do, like, I don't know, like every month or every 2 weeks or something like that. If that's something you want to do to like help build your intuition, I would consider doing that for sure. But it's probably going to be like more cost effective to do Intuition Bootcamp because I'd probably be telling you almost the same stuff as what's already in the program. And then it's like there's a payment plan or a one-time payment option, and then you get access to it for as long as I can afford to host Teachable. So yeah. Oh, that'd be so fun, Maggie. Yeah. And yeah, so it's really whatever vibes with you. I like to do a lot of free content because I think that like spirituality should be accessible to everybody. Yeah. So it's really just if you want to go deeper with some of the concepts and stuff that I teach. I teach more like practical, real world, like how to do this kind of stuff. And then I kind of talk more about concepts and like what the Akashic Records is and stuff. Yeah, on like my YouTube and stuff. So I don't really feel like very ethical putting a free course up because I just don't want people to be like misconstrued about things. If it, like someone's like not watching all the videos and they get like one chunk of it on like a YouTube channel, like it just doesn't feel like right, you know? Yeah. And that's like the main thing I go over and over again in the Intuition Bootcamp is like a lot of the time we second guess ourselves. So it's really about like learning to build a relationship of trust with you and your guides. And I'm such an anxious person. Like I ask for confirmation on things like so many times before I make a big life decision. And I think we judge ourselves about that a lot. So I really go over and over again, like it's okay to be afraid and like, you know, take your time with big life decisions. Like keep asking for signs and confirmations, you know, you're not bothering them. So yeah, but that could be something that like maybe you want to EFT tap on is like, or you can ask your spirit guides too for like, okay, so like I'm second guessing myself right now. I hear you that you're saying this. I hear my intuition that it's saying this, but if I'm right, can you send me, I don't know, like a golden butterfly or something, you know? And maybe you like go to the dollar store and find a notebook with like a gold embossed butterfly on a notebook or something, you know? So it's like Or you can ask for like a sign that's like so clear you can't miss it. I did that once when I was dating someone. I was like, I feel like I should break up with them, but like there's no like reason to in the external world, but I just was getting the intuitive gut feeling that I should. So I was like, please God, send me a sign. And I got like violently ill. And like my first thought was like, because I couldn't find drain cleaner, was to like unclog the drain with his toothbrush. And I didn't, but like that was my thought, right? That was my first thought. And I was like, oh, like that's a problem if the person I'm dating, if that's my first thought, I'm like, there's some deeper issue there that I'm picking up on that I'm resentful about. So I broke up with him in a feverish haze with this like flu. And then I found out he was cheating on me and was like a horrible person and all. I mean, I try not to judge people. I say that callously, but he was not living out of love and light. Let's just say that. Yeah. So like ask for signs, ask for confirmations. You're not bothering your spirit guides if you are. Sometimes pulling a tarot card on something or using some other kind of divination tool or getting a reading with someone, or it will be the confirmation that you need. But like, it's really about finding your own language with the universe. So, yeah. And also like if you're struggling, like figuring out, I have on my website like a what's your strongest intuitive gift quiz. And so that's not like you only have one intuitive gift kind of a thing, but it's probably going to be your strongest one based on how you interact with the world. There's a bunch of questions about like how you learn and interact with the world, as well as like how you get your information. And so like even just starting to think about like, do I hear things mostly? Do I see things mostly? Do I smell things mostly? Do I taste things mostly? Do I know things? Do I feel things? And then starting to get your intuitive hits through your strongest intuitive sense. Because spirit always talks to you in a way that makes sense to you. So if you were fully open to the spirit world, like the booming voice of God could come out of the sky and like a lightning bolt could hit you before you're like hit right in front of your feet, and you wouldn't be scared because you'd be like, oh, I'm so in tune, it's fine. But most of us do not want to wake up and have even like a spirit guide at the end of our bed like fully materialize, because like to me, that would scare me. I would not want to wake up and see someone's face at the end of my bed, even if they're loving. I'd be like, ah! Right? So I have certain boundaries up, and that's totally okay. But that means that they have to talk to me in a way that I'm going to accept, right? And so for mostly my stuff, that's like downloads and gut feelings and things like that. Sometimes angel numbers, but you're going to have your own language with the universe and with your spirit guides. But most of us are very afraid and block a lot of it out and get very into our ego and think that we're horrible and this other person's so much more psychic than me. So like, how dare I try? Like they're so far ahead of me, all this stuff. So, I would say switch up the ways that you're asking. And I would say be very, very clear with your like intention with the pendulum thing. Pendulums are not always the most surefire way, I would say, because if you're holding it, you can influence it. But even if you're staring at it and you really want a certain answer, you actually can influence it as well. It's harder to when you're not holding it. But you have to be in a very like clear-headed state to not influence it. So I would maybe ask your pendulum 1 or 2 times and then maybe go pull a tarot card, or like ask for something that like you couldn't like create necessarily, you know? Like if you're like, okay, like show me 2 Dalmatians if I'm supposed to go to this, I don't know, design school or something like that. If that's in my highest and best, show me 2 Dalmatians in the next 48 hours, right? Like I don't see that many Dalmatians walking around. So if I asked for that and then I saw it within 48 hours or whatever, I'd be like, oh, dang, you know, because they're just not a popular dog where I am. Maybe if you live in Croatia, maybe don't do the Dalmatian one, but like, you know, so yeah, like that's really normal. I tend to only use pendulums as like a quick check-in. For that reason. I love a good pendulum moment, but I find the same thing is that if I keep asking, it's almost like my anxiety starts to take over and starts to tell me what I want. Oh yeah, struggling to connect with tarot. Any tips? I would say get a deck that has a lot of imagery in it. Because if you're starting out and you don't necessarily know the background of each card, you can read intuitively of like, what is the picture showing me? Yeah, so like I'm a Leo, my fiance's a Virgo. So when I got the strength card, whenever I ask about relationships, there is some like archetypal stuff of like having strength, we're a long distance couple, all that stuff. But like I see it as like the Virgo woman soothing the lion, and it's like a card about our relationship I've figured out now. But even something like the Lover's card tends to have two figures on each side, and the parody is the devil with the two figures in chains, right? So sometimes if you get the devil reversed, it's a nod towards the lovers, you know? So just things like that where it's like seeing the images and understanding maybe what it means to you personally, kind of a thing. And like you can be so direct with your guides. Like you can be like, okay, spirit guides, I don't know what I'm doing. So, like, you're going to have to be super clear with me. Spirit guides, I'm shuffling this tarot deck, and then I'm going to Google it, and the first Google hit that comes up, or I'm going to use Biddy Tarot, or I'm going to use this book. So, only tell me things in this book. And then you can just look it up and read, like, verbatim kind of a thing. And, you know, everything, take what resonates, but, like, your spirit guides will meet you where you're at if you give them, like, game plan before, you know? If you switch your attention halfway through, it's not going to be as good a reading. But if you're like, okay, I want to talk to my spirit guides and angels, I'm shuffling. You could even be like, make my ear ring when it's time to stop shuffling. So you can be super direct with how you do it. And if tarot doesn't vibe with you, like there's so many other ways. Maybe numerology does. Maybe you get a gut feeling. Maybe you like tea leaf reading. Maybe you get into palmistry. Maybe you get into astrology. Maybe you just ask for signs out in the universe, you know? Like, the amount of times a kind stranger has said something that has absolutely changed my life when I'm at, like, rock bottom. I'm like, that's some spirit guide stuff right now. They're sending those people to say nice things to me, you know? Yeah. Yeah, I find the like upside down or like reverse cards a little bit more difficult to read. I find Biddy Tarot has like some decent explanations on it. But once again, if you don't like the reverse, you can say to your spirit guides, okay, we're not doing reverse today because I have no idea how to read those. So like you have to be like super clear with upright cards. So instead of pulling a card in reverse that might mean something, they're probably going to just show you a different card that would be easier to comprehend. But yeah, like you could even just like Google what reverse means kind of a thing. Or like I have a deck that like has upright and reverse written into it. So yeah. And like sometimes the opposite isn't always what we think. Like a lot of the time I'll look at my spread. And if I have a cup card that's upside down, like cups tend to represent energy and like sometimes psychic abilities and emotions. So if I have like a cup card upside down above another card, I look at that as if like, where is my emotional energy or where's my like day-to-day energy being drained into? And sometimes the card below it gives me an answer to that. So you can look at it as a whole spread too. Like, where are your swords pointing? Your swords are like logic and reason and air sign stuff and ideas. So like, where is your ideas going? Those sorts of things. Yeah. So you don't have to meditate, Kayla, by like sitting there and like crossing your arms and like, you know, you might meditate better by like walking barefoot on the sand. You might meditate better by like going and hugging a tree and just breathing with the tree. You might meditate better by doing a guided meditation. And maybe meditation just isn't your first step. I do not like meditating that much. I think I have ADHD. I haven't been diagnosed, but like I have all the symptoms. And I don't do well sitting there and trying to clear my mind. um, you know, I don't do well with that. So I do it sometimes, but I'm better at like going to a channeled event and like sitting in the energy and the vibration of someone bringing in high vibe beings, and like then I meditate better, or I do better if I'm like doing yoga and I like connect to God or source through my breathing practice as I do yoga, because my body's distracted by a physical movement. So I do like a relaxing yoga. But to me, that's like meditative, right? So like I would challenge you to switch up what you think is meditative. Maybe for you it's drawing. If you like to do art or you like to cook, or turn that into a meditation practice. Like turn walking on the beach into a meditation practice. Meditation is really about like connecting with your inner wisdom or connecting to your guides or your higher self, right? So you can set that intention and yeah. So like you don't need crystals. You don't need, I mean, all those things are beautiful. But it's you. You're the vehicle. So yeah. I don't know. If it doesn't vibe for you, I find journeying's easier because I listen to a repetitive drum beat and that distracts the busy part of my mind as well. So maybe finding a meditation track on Spotify or something that you like might help to try and distract the busy part of your mind. Yeah. Just drew a cup upside down. That's cute. Aw. Is there a way to place the cards when you put a spread down on the table? It just depends. Like I like to do a quick like past, present, future, like 3-card spread, or I'll do a 4-card spread. It's like the card on top is the general theme or archetype of like past, present, future, or like you can do different spreads. Occasionally I'll do a Celtic cross, but like sometimes I'll just shuffle and see what comes up. Sometimes I'll just shuffle and pull a card on a question. So yeah. Pretty sure you have ADHD too. Yeah. So like just be really easy on yourself. With time, you might find that you connect easier. And like some people, I think how they connect to spirit is like getting into that like spiritual void of like experiencing existence and neutrality and nothingness. And some people, it's like, I have a million questions I want to ask. Like I'm going to go to the Akashic Records and ask that. I find my spiritual connection works better when I'm helping other people and when I'm doing work for them. And I don't have a lot of interest a lot of the time in like going and doing like meditations for myself. Like I feel better doing it for other people. I do it for myself sometimes too. I have done a lot of work on myself in the past. But like we're all here to experience certain things and we all have our own gifts to bring. So if meditation isn't your thing, like it might be being a public speaker and motivating other people to connect to their inner wisdom. Or it might be like you're a nurse and you go and you bring your love and light into the ER or whatever, you know? Like you could be like a lit leader doing like garbage man work, you know? Like maybe you're just like the kindest, most loving garbage person and you like change the world through being kind to people and like putting their garbage cans back where they want them and, you know, saying hi to the dogs and all that stuff. So like there's no right or wrong way to be spiritual, you know? Yeah. Oh, yeah, the idea of death is super spooky. I mean, I think it's a good thing that it's scary to most people because you came here for a reason. So, like, I think there's a certain biological, like, evolutionary thing. This is why I say we need ego. I wrote a whole blog post on this. Why we need ego, why it's important. Ego keeps us tethered to the physical world, and it also makes sure that our physical needs are being met. And it also reaffirms the stories we tell to ourselves. So it's good to have a healthy fear of crossing over and all that, because like there's a reason why we came here. We need to live the lives that we were meant to live, you know, all that stuff. So I think to a certain degree it's good. In terms of what happens afterwards, my understanding is you go through a tunnel of light or you cross the veil in some sense, and you usually are met by like all your loved ones, and you usually get to like watch your life be replayed to you, and you can see all the ways you've positively or maybe negatively affected people, places, and things. And you kind of get to do a life review and think about like, oh, was that loving? Like, oh, was I acting out of love? Oh, was that what I wanted to do? Kind of a thing. And you get to kind of be reflective, and then you get to just like vibe in eternity and like understand the universe and its complexities, and you're in this place of like love and light. And then when that gets boring, you get to like start to craft a new life contract. Like, who do I want to incarnate with? Who do I want to be my mom and dad? Who do I want to do this? And you get to start over again. So it's very loving. It's very empowering. You can't feel pain when you're in your spiritual form. So like after you leave the physical, there isn't any pain really anymore. So yeah. Dance to meditate. Ooh, I love that. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad, Blentwich. It's so nice to hang out. Yeah, Schumann resonance. Have ADHD and meditation has been huge. Yeah. And now you can meditate without a guided one. That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. You could probably like see if like an Etsy store or something will sell like a single card. Yeah. Illuminations. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Do you mean like a spiritual awakening illumination where like all of a sudden you're like, yeah. I mean, it could be the brain shutting down, but like when you look at it at like a quantum physics level, like you cannot destroy or create energy, and like physics and math has a really really hard time dealing with the idea of unity, like one solid truth, one unified number, one unified thing is like impossible for math and science to really like get to, right? um yeah, so you can't really destroy or create your consciousness, so like where does it go when your physical body dies? Oh, someone explained it as healing past life issues, but I've never heard of that term before. Yeah, I mean, the thing with like spiritual language is it's kind of like what makes sense to you in that moment kind of a thing. So it probably just means like illuminating an idea or concept or block or pattern that you have kind of a thing. That would be my sense of things. Yeah. Yeah, not about shutting down, more able to control it. It's about noticing when the thought leaves. Yeah. And sometimes it's a nice practice to just sit and breathe and watch your thoughts kind of pass you by and kind of step away from your thoughts as being like you. Yeah. What about deciding to incarnate off Earth lives? Yeah, so like most people I've worked with will have at least one off planet lifetime. It's rare for us to um only live on Earth. I'm sure there's some people who that is true for. Um, but yeah, like there's so much exploration to do that yeah, deciding to incarnate off Earth, you would probably just be aware of what that would look like. Like, so what kind of a society you're incarnating into? Do they have parents? How are you born? Like all the similar types of questions, still kind of a life contract or purpose. You still have free will. Um, you know? So very similar, but it just Earth tends to have a lot of duality and contrast, meaning that Earth tends to have a lot more drama and conflict than some other places, but there are star beings that have the same amount or more. So it really just depends on like where you're incarnating, what your purpose is, what you want to accomplish, what you want to experience. Yeah. And so like I know a lot of people who have had rough lifetimes, it's like hard to be like, well, I didn't want to choose these parents, or I didn't want to choose this brother, I didn't want to choose this person. And it's like a hard pill to swallow, but like the more that I've accepted that into my life, the more empowered I've felt, because the Akashic Records told me once that like free will is absolute. You cannot have partial free will. So this idea of living in a world where we have some free will and not all free will is actually deeply disturbing to me and scary. So the more I've accepted, you know, we create our own reality and we're all one and we're the universe experiencing ourselves. And part of that is incarnating into troubling situations and learning how to step into our power and transmute that and heal and learn and love and all that. Has been empowering for me. So it's not always empowering for everyone or at every stage people are in. But I would tend to agree with what the Akashic Records told me of freedom is absolute, free will is absolute. You cannot have partial freedom because that's not actually freedom. Oh, cool. You remember signing your soul contract. That's cool. And like, I go into more detail on this in my membership, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but like we do have options to leave, usually scheduled into our life contract. So like we have more free will about certain things than we consciously remember. So yeah. But I said 45 minutes ago I should go in 10 or 15, so I should probably actually sign off, friends, even though I'm really enjoying this, and like I wish we could spend all day together. But just know how much I love you, and know how powerful you are, and how like amazing you are, and you're the universe experiencing yourself. And if you want to know more about this, I would say go to my YouTube and look at my Akashic Records series, because there's probably about like 30 minutes of video on that right now. Oh, I mean, the last incarnation is like a loose concept because time isn't linear outside of the third dimension, but it means you might ascend, essentially. Yeah, free will is very important everywhere. Oh, American Big Hair, I love you. I'm so glad that you vibe with my lives. It's very nice. Oh, you too, Sarah Ann. So much love to you. Shelby, so much love to you too. I love you so much. And yeah, I hope you all have an amazing day too. Nina, I'm sorry I saw you like sign in like 5 minutes before I was about to go, but know that I love you too. I love each and every one of you. Katie, if you're still on, I love you. And yeah, just like, yeah, set some cool intentions today. Step into your power. Give yourself a little bit of a break if you're feeling like the density of January. I know it's been like a weird month. So yeah. And yeah, I'd love to work with you if you want to work with me. I'll do another past life giveaway in February for a free session with me. And yeah, I love you all so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye, friends.